Hello and welcome to Cherries Red Army and our latest fan debate and a couple of debuts. We'll go into the guest introductions in a moment. Do subscribe to Cherries Red Army. Also hit the like button on this video. And we've got some topics on the table to discuss. And at the end, use those comments because we want to know what you think as well. Right, let's go round the room. Let's start off with someone who's been on the channel before. David Cordell from the States. How are you? How's your pre-season? Tell us something interesting about yourself and supporting the Cherries.
Okay, well, I started supporting the Cherries in 1970. Can still remember my first game against Mansfield Town, won 1-0 with Trevor Hartley scoring a goal in the old South End, and we still got relegated on goal average. So that was my first game. I've been in the States since '88, but followed them on the old days on the old BBC World Service. But now you can actually watch every game live here, so it's pretty cool.
Fantastic. Now, our first debut, he's got a YouTube channel, details in the description. Go check them out. He loves a match. It's Colin Byrne. Thanks for being on this fan debate. How you doing, buddy?
Great. It's great to be here. Long-term follower of your channel. So thank you very much for inviting me. It's a bit of background about me and my AFC Bournemouth supporting history then. So I started supporting the Cherries in '98. I actually remember my first game as well. It was against Cambridge United. It was 1-1. And I remember that season, I think I still remember this on my Meridian News bulletin about how we were the draw specialists, because I think we went like 2 months just drawing every single game 1-1. It was Mel Machin was the manager back then. So that was 98. I've been season ticket holder in League 2, League 1. I actually worked at the club about 10 years ago running the scoreboard and the PA, announcement microphones and things like that. So when it was the Real Madrid 6-0 and also the League 1 promotion season, that's when I was running the scoreboard. So if you notice any terrible music or anything spelt wrong on the scoreboard, it was my fault. Sorry about that. So yeah, that's a brief history. And I'm not a season ticket holder, but I go to as many home games as I can and a few away games. So I went to all the home games last season. And actually, when we dropped to the Championship during the COVID year, actually worked out quite well for me because I actually had no points on my AFC Bournemouth home points. So going in the Championship, I was able to build them up. So now I can go to all the games again. So a positive out of a negative for me. Thumbs up.
Fantastic. That's a brilliant introduction. Drawing games, we don't do that much nowadays. I think it's 20 games without a draw. So we'll see what happens when the season kicks off. Our second debut is Ollie Windsor. Tell us a bit about yourself, Ollie, and an interesting fact about supporting the Cherries.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about this one because I'm actually quite a late bloomer. I've only got into football a couple of years now, just after COVID, actually. And I am a season ticket holder, but that's solely because my aunt and uncle, who were the season ticket holders, and they went with their son, my cousin, and he didn't like going. He just stopped going, and they got in contact with me and they said, "Do you want to come to a game?" And I said, "Well, why not?" I only really watched international games. I watched England, and that's pretty much it. I didn't think much of it, but as soon as I went to it, I just fell in love, and I just kept on watching them. And ironically, I don't like watching England now, so it's quite funny actually. I guess that's sort of interesting. But yeah, I wasn't really into sports much, but as soon as I went to that game, I think it was just after COVID. It was the Sheffield United game in the pouring rain, and it was quite a good game. I think that was back when we used to get penalties. So yeah, no, not too long ago. I think just over 2 years now, maybe. I don't know, but So I just fell in love, just out of the blue, really. After that,
you have to treasure that season ticket, though, man, because those are valuable.
Oh yeah, no, I know. Yes. Yeah, no, I know. And it's crazy because obviously I wasn't into football before, really. So I definitely am quite lucky in that sort of aspect. As for now, I've always been interested in media, and after doing that, I've sort of like done football analysis and kind of got into that. And I now work at a radio station presenting the sport, and I always love chatting about the Cherries. but obviously I do have to talk about all sports, not just football. But yeah, I'm a bit biased in that aspect, I guess.
The saying, once a cherry, always a cherry, seems a perfect fit right now for you, Ollie. So thank you for all those introductions. And we are going to go straight into the topics. You brought some conversations to the tables, guys, and let's get into it. And David, when I spoke to you a few days ago, you wanted us to rate the transfer window so far. So let's do that. So out of 10, how would you rate the transfer window and why have you got to that number?
So I'd rate it a 6, to be honest with you. I think we brought in some really good players, but we still need to bring in a few more. So I'm really excited by the players we brought in. I'm really excited by the new manager. But I still think we need, and we'll probably talk about it in the next question, but I still think we need a striker. I still think we need a central midfielder, and I think we need coverage at the full-back positions. So right now, I'd give it a 6 out of 10. Exciting, got some great new players. Looking forward to the style of play that we're going to be playing this season. But we still got work to do.
Yeah, I think there are more discussions to come very quickly, David, about what we need to do to this squad to improve on that 15th position last season. But Colin, if you were to rate the transfer window so far, many days to come, and Bill Foley's expectations were put out there very early as well, where would you be out of 10 at the moment?
I think I'd probably be a 6 as well at the moment. Really excited by Kirkes and Kluivert. A few people. I mean, I've not been to any of the pre-season games. I've obviously watched a few clips on YouTube, but from what I'm seeing of Kluivert, he looks like a really good signing. Also, from what I've heard of Kirkes as well, he's been really good. I still think there's lots of gaps, and I mean, there's a wider conversation to be had about this transfer window in general, how long it goes past the start of the season, which is really frustrating. And over the past couple of years, what we found is that we are now famous for doing our business very late in the day, probably trying to get the best deal. So you hear all these rumors on Twitter, and this is actually another point I'll probably bring up a bit later on about Twitter and social media and how that's sort of skewing everyone's view of the transfer window, especially for us at the moment. But it feels like there's always a rumor every day about how many players that Bill wants to bring in, or how many players Simon Francis wants to bring in, or there's always a different name that's being bandied about. Someone's spoken to someone at the club and they've heard a rumor. I think the latest rumor I heard is that someone spoke to, I don't know if it was Simon Francis or someone else at the club, and they said to them on the offer they want to sign at least 4 more players or something like that. It's just, you don't know what to believe. But I think there are still some gaps. I'm happy with what we've done so far. I think a lot of Bournemouth fans are quite impatient at the moment, especially with social media and all the AFCB hashtag, which I will admit I am guilty of refreshing that AFCB hashtag multiple times a day for any new news, anything. And sometimes it will be like I'm just working, I search it, I put my phone down, 5 minutes later, search it again, and there's no new tweets. Damn, no new tweets. So in terms of, I think the main area that we need to look at is the midfield, and especially a Lerma replacement. That is something that's quite concerning to me. I mean, if we still had Pearson on the books, I probably wouldn't be as concerned. But because we've lost Pearson as well, who I thought in the few games he played last season actually did a really good job, was quite pretty solid, and could have filled that gap until we brought potentially someone else in. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see what else is going to happen, because I'm sure there's more business we're going to be doing between now and the end of the window. But for now, in answer to your question, I would say, same as David, about a 6 out of 10 in what we've done so far.
And if you are on Twitter handles are below the people that are appearing on this fan debate. X, if it's not Twitter
X,
anymore.
yeah, it's now X.
Who knows what it is anymore?
Today.
And Ollie is an inspiring journalist. I think I'm correct in saying that, Ollie, and you're doing a good job in trying to keep relevant transfer news ticking over for us. Where would you rate the transfer window? And is the impatience because we want to hit the ground running because we got a tough start in that schedule?
Yeah, no, we do have a tough start, similar to last season. To answer your question, what number I'd say, I'd probably smack bang in the middle and go for a 5, just because if you'd said, what business we've done prior to our transfer, and you said, you've signed this and this and this, not that I knew of them, only obviously probably Justin Cliver. But I probably would have expected that, and I'd say, yeah, that's where I thought we'd be, because we've still got a month to go. So, and like you've already alluded to, we've, generally speaking, do our business quite late in the transfer, whether if that's because we want to get it slightly cheaper. I can't think of any other reason for it, but yeah, I think we've got a player in at left back with Kirkes. I mean, I went to the Southampton game and I thought, well, I mean, obviously it's only pre-season, but I thought, wow, he is definitely a threat going forward, and even defensively. So, and the fact that he's only 19, it's definitely promising. Obviously, I was quite pleased with Vina last season, so it's a shame that now he's gone. I can't remember where he's gone to, but he's moved on. So we're not getting him anymore. But I definitely think we should do with another left back. Obviously, midfield is definitely an issue with Lerma out the door. I'm not convinced with Cook. I mean, in the Championship, I was a big fan of Lewis Cook, but I mean, Premier League standard, I'm not too sure. Especially, he's obviously had his injury issues, and I'm not too sure if he can stay fit. So also position right back, I'm definitely not convinced by Adam Smith. Again, I know in the pre-season game, it's just pre-season, but these errors really frustrate Bournemouth fans, and understandably, I mean, he's getting on. I don't know how many more years he's got. Probably not many, if not his last. So, and we can't rely on Fredericks. He's always injured. We definitely need a right back. So they're the three positions that I'm looking at, mainly midfield and mainly right back. But a backup left back would be suitable.
David, you
So I was going to say,
you want to come off the back of that.
I would say there's a couple of things. One is why we do our business late. I think it's partly because the big teams are also kind of like making their transfers, and that then leaves people over when they've made their transfers. So it's kind of a reaction to the Big Six move. We've also got this year Saudi Arabia, which is kind of screwing up the whole transfer thing, because everybody wants to seem to go and play money and don't care about the actual competition. So that's making a difference. I think we'll do our business late. I do think that we do need somebody up front. Dom, I think, is a really hard worker and will always be in the team, but he's not a natural finisher in the sense that, I mean, there's plenty of times I see the ball get crossed in and there's no one at the end of it. And that's where you need that old-fashioned number 9 to kind of be there to score. I don't think Kiefer Moore could do it. I think he'll end up going back to Cardiff. So I think we desperately need somebody to play up front as an alternative with Solanke, or even with Solanke. But yeah, I mean, I think it's been, as I said, I think 5-6 is a really good start to the season. I'm really impressed by the players we've signed. I just hope they don't choose another K, because if we have 3 players with K, that's not going to go down well in the United States in terms of the PR. But overall, I think we'll be okay. And I think my guess is there'll be more players coming in the next couple of weeks.
Colin?
Just I guess this is to the room really about the right back, guessing a replacement right back. Obviously Smith and Fredericks. So I guess the question is, if Fredericks didn't have the injury history he has, which just seems it's a bit ridiculous at this point, do you think we'd still be interested in getting a replacement right back? If Fredericks, say last season he played pretty much or was fit every single game, do you think that'd still be a priority, getting a right back?
I'll come into this conversation because I was a bit stumped that we got Fredericks, although I felt okay with it because it was a free transfer. I think if we were paying any sort of fee for Ryan Fredericks, I just would have been like, do we not see what he's done in his previous clubs and his injury record? And actually, Colin, if he was fit and he was hitting the ground running and we could rely on him, he probably is the type of player that would fit for Andoni Iraola. The fact is, on the tin, we probably know he's not going to be available for 95% of the season. And with Adam Smith on his last year of contract and 31-32, it's a lot to ask of Adam Smith to play the Andoni ball. That's my opinion. David?
I agree with you. I think Adam, from what I heard on Saturday, Adam played really well. Right? I mean, he didn't play well against Southampton, but he played well on Saturday. But the thing is he going to be able to do that week in, week out with the kind of style that the manager's going to want us to play? So I think we desperately need that. I agree with you. I think if Fredericks was fit, I wouldn't be so worried. But he's not, and so I mean the one player actually who worries me most actually right now is Tabs, because no one's mentioned him, and I've got a feeling he's injured. So he is injured, I think. So that would be a huge loss if he's injured.
He was my player of the season as well, Tavernier. I know there was some good shouts for player of the season, but his match-winning numbers, those goals, goal at Watford, at Wolves, goal at Southampton, the goal against Fulham to turn that game around. It was match-winning moments, and he's going to be a massive player for us. Fortunately, I think we're well equipped in that attacking role, and if Christie can start to up his numbers, we might be okay. I think you need to hold that thought, David, about Dom Solanke, because that's coming very soon. Because yes, I also agree that I think we need goals. Keeping on that theme, Colin, just coming back to you there, talking about reliability. Jefferson Lerma has left the club, gone to Crystal Palace, and I think the club would have known that many months before the season finished. We've let Ben Pearson go out, and weirdly, I think Ben Pearson gets in this side. I think as Bournemouth fans, we'd all love Lewis Cook to be this great player that we thought he was going to turn into. Injuries have probably hampered him and turned that situation around. I don't mind Lewis Cook being in this squad. Do I want Lewis Cook being a starter for us once the games get going in the Premier League? I think we'll really struggle. We do need to fill that position. We do need to bring a Lerma type player in, someone who's got some bite, some aggression and energy. And Lewis Cook can play a part.
I actually disagree with you. I think Lewis can be a starter. I think there's no doubt he's had injuries, but he just needs a run of games, and I think he's always had the talent. That doesn't mean we don't. That doesn't mean we don't need someone like Lerma as well. We do. I was disappointed they let Lerma go. I think they could have found a way to keep him.
I get the impression they probably tried everything they could to keep Lerma.
Yeah,
I think he's.
Yeah.
But then why go to Palace? I mean, with all due respect, if it's Big Six team, I can understand that. I could understand him going back to Spain, but Palace?
Yeah.
I think
I thought that was a
money
strange
and
one.
location. I think London came into it a bit. I don't know the full history and story around it, but I did hear a whisper that London came into it. Lewis, Colin?
But Palace is a dump compared to the rest of London. So I'm not sure why.
Well, they're trying to improve their stadium as well, but at the moment it doesn't sound a great place for an away fan to go to. Colin, do you believe in Lewis Cook to consistently turn up week in, week out for 36, 38 games?
I think it's linking on to, I guess, what David said. Like, I don't feel last season he really had a consistent run in the team to really show what he can do. I mean, I always see a lot of critics, once again, on Twitter or X, which is where I frequent, looking at AFC Bournemouth opinion. There's always a lot of negativity around Lewis Cook, but I can't really name you a game where he's played poorly, really, for us. I think the main thing is what we need is an enforcer sort of player, someone who's not afraid to get stuck in, getting those tackles, getting players' faces, getting their heads, and that's what Lerma and Pearson were all about. And I think Lewis Cook's a really good footballer. I just don't think he's that sort of player.
I would say, sorry, Sputton. I would say, I always rated Lewis Cook, especially in the Championship. I just think he's really suffered with injuries, and having that regular game time, he definitely suffered with, and that is what frustrated me personally. And we haven't got that good of a squad to have those injury problems. When with like the likes of Fredericks, we need players that can be in there and be consistent. I mean, obviously, like Tavernier, we relied on him so heavily, but he just really struggled with injuries. And in the midfield, I think what we do need is like a Lerma, someone that is consistent and can score the odd goal. We didn't really have that with Lewis Cook, and I think I can remember him scoring maybe once or twice the season before last. I remember when we were going through a rough patch in the Championship under Scott Parker. He was the shining star. I thought he was fantastic, and I personally think he would probably have been my player of the season. But he's really hidden. He was really hidden in the Premier League when last season. So I personally don't think he's what we need at the moment. As much as I like him, I struggle to think, is he actually a starting player for us come next season?
He only scores worldies as well, so that's the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's only got 2 goals in his whole Bournemouth career, and he did drag us through that Championship promotion, actually. I can remember a few games before Forest, and he was the driving force. But David, if he does turn it on and he can find a way to be consistently good, and look, we've got a coach now that might be able to get this finally out of Lewis Cook. But even if Lewis Cook is at his best, we are still very light in centre midfield.
No, we are, and I'm not gonna disagree with that. I just think that you've got to give the guy a chance to actually prove himself week in, week out, and be playing. But talking about injuries, I mean, we had a chance last year to sign Jackson in January, and now look, he's gone to Chelsea and he's scoring goals. So sometimes
Don't, David, don't.
It's only pre-season. He'll be a flop.
But I don't think he will be. I think he's it's just a real shame we didn't sign him in January. But anyway,
this sort of takes. Go on, Colin.
I was going to say, that linking back to what you said about Tavernier and how people haven't really mentioned his injury record, which hasn't been great last season. I think it's because he is such a game changer and is such an important player in our squad that almost we're too scared to mention, like, oh no, we've got another sort of Fredericks player on our hands here.
Yeah.
Or Stanis.
Who would stand? Yeah.
I think is it the first international break, isn't it? They're saying for
yes, I think so.
It's not great because Tavernier is going to be a big player for us. Takes us on nicely, Ollie, to the topic that you want to sort of bring up, and it's not going to go away. Dom Solanke, is he a number 9? Is he a number 10? Does he score enough goals? You're not convinced. I mean, I do want Dom Solanke in this squad. I think he adds a lot of value. 6 goals last season, 7 assists though, and previously struggled to notch goals in the Premier League, although he was playing second fiddle to Callum Wilson. Where are you at with Dom Solanke, who's still on a good contract?
Well, I think he is such an important player for us at the moment. If we're not going to bring in another striker, I don't think he's droppable. And as much as I like his all-round game, and that's usually every other fan that is supportive of him staying as our striker, he's got such good all-round game. He's so important to our style of play that at the moment he isn't droppable. It's just really frustrating. I mean, especially, last season we saw it especially. He just always takes that extra touch, or I don't know. It seems as if he's just not got that Premier League experience. He's just not at this moment in time. He's just not, stood up and led our line, and I don't think he's going to be. Well, I'm not saying he could be, but it's at this moment in time, I don't think he's what we need. I mean, I do think we can get another striker in. I think there was I can't remember his name now, but there's one that Everton have just nicked out the blue that we were interested in for some time.
Yeah,
but I think we could look in that department. I know Kiefer Moore definitely isn't going to suit it as much as I do love watching him smash it with his head into the goal. I don't think he's quite good enough for the Premier League. I mean, Solanke definitely is. And the only thing I can say is from what I've heard of the new manager, he relies heavily on his wingers to score goals. And if that's what he's going to do, then I'm happy for him to keep on playing. But obviously we haven't seen Justin Kluivert score many goals. Not score many goals. We haven't seen him play actual football, at Dean Court. So I do struggle to see. I mean, he's definitely a goal threat because I know at his previous clubs he has scored goals.
Yeah.
But looking at the likes of Tavernier, who, yes, we know can score goal, but he struggles to stay fit. And I think we do need a focal point in a striker who can score, enough goals. Because I think last season, was it 4 or 5 goals? I mean, that just doesn't cut it for a Premier League striker. And as much as I like him, it's not, I don't think that's good enough. And I know his assists are okay. I think he had 7 assists last season, which is, like I'm going back to the point where he has got a good overall game and he's very important to our play style. But sometimes you watch him and think, I know, yes, he's just ran half the pitch, but he's at position. We need someone in the middle of the park, up front, who can be there for when crosses from the likes of Tavernier and Kluivert's to whip it in, and sometimes you think he's not there. Or if he is leading the line, like going back to, he takes the extra touch. And it's just getting to the point where you think, is he good enough to, take us to 13th, 12th, and, wherever we can go? I'm not convinced at the moment, but, I'd like to hear your opinions on it, to be fair.
The thing is, David, and I think that Dom Solanke worked so hard to score in the Championship, 15 in the first season, failed promotion, 29 Championship goals in the second season, and he got credit in the bank, I think, from that. And I think Scott Parker early on asked him to do a team role in that opening day against Aston Villa, and then he obviously had to adapt under a new head coach. And 6 goals, it's not a lot of goals, and our lowest goal tally as a team in the Premier League, 37. And if you haven't got a goal scorer that is scoring 10, 11, 12, 15 goals, it is putting heavy reliance on other players to add numbers. And I think the last couple of seasons, we haven't had a lot of goals from defenders. Senesi chipped in with a few. But where I am with Dom Solanke is I think he's adapting his game because he's not obsessed with the box. I've said this a few times on the channel. He's not a Callum Wilson. He doesn't live for the 6 yards. But he is up top, and we do need goals. We want to try and finish higher than 15th this season. What do we do? Because Dom Solanke is a good player. He has a good game, but I want goals.
He's definitely, he's definitely one of the hardest working players, right? I mean, his work rate is phenomenal, and he will go and chase. But I think Ollie could say, to me, he's not a natural goal scorer. He's not a Ted McDougall, right? Or a Callum Wilson, who's in the box, being greedy and poaching goals. He reminds me more of a Phil Boyer, right, where he was setting up goals. I think a lot will also depend on what happens with Phil Billing. I mean, there's rumours that Phil might be leaving. Now, if he leaves, we're going to have somebody to play up front. Maybe that's a role that Solanke can play. I don't know, but I definitely think we need a natural goal scorer to be there, getting those crosses and finishing and being greedy and being a natural scorer. We don't. I don't see that with Dom as much. I see more of a very hard-working player who helps create chances, but isn't necessarily there when the ball gets crossed.
Here lies the problem, Colin. Here lies the problem. Where do you get a goal scorer to join a team that's potentially going to finish between 20th and 11th to score you 10, 15 goals that's not going to cost you in this transfer window that's crazy lots of dough?
That is the question all the teams are asking, because that's what every team in our sort of league position is wanting. So in terms of Dom Solanke, I will sing his praises till the cows come home. I'm a big fan of his. And personally, I think he could thrive next season if we are able to get more goals from midfield and from our wingers. I don't see him as a out-and-out striker as such. I know he is, but I see him more as the sort of person that brings others into play. His work rate off the ball, as everyone's mentioned, everyone knows his work rate. But if you actually watch how potentially he might not always get the assist, but the work he does when we do score goals and what he's done in the build-up to that, you'd be surprised at how fewer goals we would have if he wasn't in the team. We are a much worse team without him in it, to be honest with you. And I think, depending on the recruitment in midfield and how wingers do this year, I think he'll do great in bringing others into play. I mean, he's going to be first on the team sheet. He'll be there. West Ham, Tottenham game against Liverpool. I can't see that changing unless you say we're able to somehow pull, a magic transfer out the bag, Bill's magic bag of tricks. But
can we get Lionel Messi on the loan during the off season for the MLS?
one of the most ridiculous ones I saw in terms of Twitter rumors was Cavani. He was like on free transfer saying, just get Cavani in. Why do we go and sign him? Yeah.
Well, the other one I've heard in the midfield is people say, why don't we just sign Fred? I'm like,
that's another one I was going to say. Just go get Fred. Yeah, go on. Go ask Fred if he wants to come on the Bournemouth. It only is that easy. But continue the striker, the talk here. Everyone seems to be forgetting about Semenyo. Am I the only one who's still at the club? And from what I've seen of him, I've I think he's got potential. I mean, he hasn't had he's injured at the moment, but he should be back by the start of the season, I think I saw. He hasn't had a run of game, obviously, because Slanky's keeping him out of the team. But I think potentially he's got potential to be that, if he gets a better run in the team.
Okay, so I'm going to throw it out there because I've seen it on Twitter. Shay Adams.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Wow, yeah.
Go on, Ollie.
Okay.
for what? Because I think the demand fee is there or thereabouts of 10 million, and I don't think he's worth that, to be honest. Especially entering his last year contract to Southampton. Especially when we've just bought Kluivert. I mean, he could be something. He could be a player that we could do with, but I don't rate him as. I'm not convinced by him personally.
It's the price, I think, that all the teams are interested in. I mean, for that caliber of player in the Premier League for around 10 million, a striker is actually a pretty good price, to be fair.
Well, I'm not too sure the stats from last season for Southampton. But they're not very good.
Okay, though.
You said about stats,
but he's a finisher, right? I mean, he does finish goals.
Scored against us.
When his toe's not offside, it's St Mary's Day, David. When his toe's not offside, he scores goals. Thankfully, his toe was offside, mind.
Yeah. But from what I saw at Southampton the other day, he wasn't great. And I mean, I don't think he'd be an upgrade for Semenyo or Kiefer Moore or Solanke. So personally, I don't see what it'd be, if it'd be worth it or not. Yeah, I don't know.
Talking about stats, that player, just to briefly mention, we mentioned this player who was rumoured that we are interested in, who's going to Everton now, apparently.
But he hasn't scored, right? He doesn't score that many goals.
Yeah, I saw he scored 3 goals. I don't know why everyone's acting as if he's prime.
Yeah, I mean, because I think he's, I think they're thinking he's going to be worth 20 million. I think the Sporting was demanding, and he is 19, so you can understand the inexperience there. But 3 goals isn't.
But do we want an experience? Surely we want someone in who's just
and we've got the menu who is young. So
exactly.
No.
But the players that we're looking to buy, right? Let's look at the kind of players he wants to buy. He wants to buy the Nathan Ake's, right? The ones where we can buy them for 20 million and sell them for 50, right? That's how clubs like us will actually make money, and Bill will still be interested in funding it. So we've got to look for those rough diamonds and then help bring them along. It's a difficult one, though. I mean, what about Alex Scott, right? Everybody says, I'm not. Yes, he might be worth 100 million in 3 or 4 years, but he might not be. I mean, we all remember Jordan I, right? Everybody said, oh, he was going to be. That didn't work out so good. Yeah. So it's always a tough.
Alex Scott's an interesting one because when this conversation came around, 15, 20 million, take a punt, go for it. I think I was fine. Now it's getting up to 30 million, and he does look like he's got the potential. And a few weeks ago, I was like, 30 million is too high because it doesn't mean he's going to reach that potential. No. I don't really want to compare him to David, but it's a good point that you make. The problem I think we've got now, David, a couple of weeks away from West Ham and wanting to hit the ground running, getting 3 points on the board, is we look very desperate in centre midfield. And I'm almost sitting here now going, just pay the money, because I want to get some talent and some movement and some creativity in that centre midfield. And the hand of Bristol City's got a lot stronger, I think, in the last couple of weeks, especially it is pre-season. Losses are losses, but not really doing enough against Atalanta just strengthens Bristol City's hand, Colin, potentially.
Yeah, I mean, they know what they're doing. They're very well aware of what we've got in our squad and what the other teams have got, and they're holding out to get as much as they can, because you're right, it's gone up from 15, 20, 25 now. Last I saw was that Wolves are going to bid 30 million, and they've got no money, apparently, so I don't know what to do.
Wolves have to be really careful because of the the financial restrictions. It's a hard one because it's almost like you're buying a stock at a high value, right? And you're hoping it's going to go even higher. Well, that's great if it actually goes higher, but
it's a big risk. 30 million is a massive risk.
Yeah.
These conversations are going to run on until what? The 1st of September. We'll keep refreshing
until someone signs Alex Scott. Then we can move
until
on.
someone signs Alex Scott. There's a lot of work to do. Quickly, David.
Miami's going to be finished at the end of the season. Let's bring Messi in on a loan. I mean, come on.
Very quickly,
Yeah.
guys,
Bournemouth?
before we go on to our final topic, very quickly. I mean, Milos Kerkez, he looks like the real deal, David.
That's the kind of player that you want to get, right? You need somebody with that potential. I think it's Gail, who's a big fan of Hungarian football on Twitter. She was always rating him, and I think he's exactly the type of player that you want. You want to get someone like him young, help develop them, and my prediction is in 3 or 4 years we'll sell him on to one of the big six for probably three times what we paid for him.
Ollie,
Yeah.
it would have been nice if we could have got Vinya as well and had the dream left back partnership where they could alternate or they could come in when one's injured. And let's be honest, Vinya probably doesn't want to play second fiddle. He probably wants to know that his place is guaranteed. And that's probably why he's off back to Serie A, I think. But we do probably need another left back cover, but maybe someone that can grow similar to Kerkez, but maybe not at the talent of Kerkez. And we'll have some cover there at left back.
Yeah, I'm not too sure if the club have been looking at it. I mean, there's not been too much rumours for a backup at left back, bar Vinya, but we know he's not going to be coming back to the club. So it will be interesting to see what the club does in terms of a backup left back. But looking at Kerkez, I mean, obviously it's only pre-season, so you can't speak too much on it. But what a player! And 15 million. I mean, David, you've already mentioned. It's very likely that he's going to be leaving, triple the price that we paid for him. I mean, 19 and, the experience he's got at the moment. I mean, he's definitely going to be a promising player and one to watch next season.
And he seems like a nice kid as well. I mean, he speaks English. He was signing autographs for the kids apparently on Saturday. That's the kind of player that you want to get.
He's saying all the right things, isn't he? To get the fans on side.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah,
it is amazing, Colin, because once upon a time we were bidding for Royce Wiggins many times, and we were also bringing in Brad Smith for 4 million from our B team Liverpool once upon a time, and now it's 15 million pounds for a young left back.
I remember when we built our team on free transfers, and we had transfer embargo. So
that first year in the Premier League was just amazing for all those signings we made.
Yeah,
so many. In the Vinya one, just to touch on that, I mean, has that been 100% confirmed that he's going? I know there was heavily rumoured on Twitter.
I think it was a done deal. I think it's pretty much a done deal.
I just don't think he wants to play second fiddle. I think he sees himself as the first choice left back, and I think he knows that Kerkez is not coming in to sit on the bench.
Well, the only other player, the other option is, Kelly can play left back, and I actually think he plays it. I think he's okay at left back. And you got him as a cover, and you got 2 centre backs already. I don't know. It's just an option.
I do like Kelly at left back in terms of he can whip a good ball into the box. I mean, I don't know if you've ever, seen some of his crosses are incredible. He just does, you see it a few times in a game. He obviously plays much better.
I think he plays better at left back, to be honest.
I disagree. I think he plays a lot better at left-sided centre back. But I guess he can play as a cover, but he doesn't offer that threat that I think Iriola will look for. Right. But it'll be interesting to see if we do sign another left back.
Just to the very probably last point on this, just you mentioned how Iriola's like very he likes to have good crosses into the box and the wings getting crosses in. So we've mentioned Kiefer Moore in those rumours that I think it was Cardiff want to sign him on loan. But that's all dependent on who we get in. But do you not think that maybe Moore might thrive a bit better in the Iriola system with the crosses into the box? Because that's what we were lacking last year potentially when he was on the field, on the pitch. Like sometimes he was going out wide to get the ball, which is not where you want Kiefer Moore to be.
I mean, let's be honest here. I mean, up to the World Cup, it was because of Kiefer Moore that we were in a strong position. He scored on opening day. He got 2 goals against Tottenham. I know we lost the game. A great Adam Smith cross into the box on one of them goals as well. And really, Kiefer Moore's form dipped when he wasn't playing, when he wasn't getting any game time. He had 1 minute in something like 400. Then he came off the bench at home at Dean Court and he missed a sitter, like a header that he would bury every day of the week. And I just think actually he was lacking in confidence. I like Kiefer Moore. Great guy. I think he gives you good hold-up play. He's lethal in the box if you're whipping balls in. when he's in form. The problem is, David, is does his all-round game suit this type of style that we're going to bring to the table?
I think the problem is the high press, right? I don't know if he can keep that up in the standard, the way the manager's going to want, right? I think you've got to have very fit, hard workers, and I think Keith is a good player. I think he's a great championship player. I think he can actually be an okay player in the Premier League, but he's not. I mean, when you see him running around, and Billing, I think is going to struggle with that too, with the work rate that's going to be needed by the new manager.
I think he was Kiefer Moore. Well, up until the World Cup. Afterwards, he was much so a Plan C by Gary O'Neill. I mean, he even said about it on interviews. We just thought, chuck him on, see what he can do. Chuck a few crosses in the box, and then obviously, we don't want to go too much into Gary O'Neill, but he then would take off the wingers, and you would question. But that's for another day.
That's why potentially he could be the Plan B this season. It could work a bit better.
I think he definitely could be. Albeit we played with strengths. There is potential. Yeah.
Adam Smith was brilliant at the end of the season. I know we were losing every game at the back end of it, but he was crossing in balls, and Kiefer Moore wasn't on the bench. And then Kiefer Moore came on, and Adam Smith went off. It was very odd.
A strange one.
But there are some really, really good conversations that this is what's happening on social media. Keep the conversation, you the viewers, keep the conversations going in the comments, because these guys will pop into there on this video and have a look at them. But more to come, and I'm sure Bournemouth will do some decent stuff in the window, because we definitely do need to recruit. Look, do hit the like button, do subscribe, and guys, we come to Colin's question, which I think this is a really interesting topic. Colin, to wrap up this fan debate, what would you classify as a successful season for AFC Bournemouth? This is a variety question. I'll come to you in a minute, Colin. David, what would be a good season for AFC Bournemouth?
That's a tough one. I mean, I'd love to win the title, but that's not going to happen. I think a top 10 finish would be great. I'd like to see us take the cup seriously, and I believe this manager will do that. I've dreamt since I was a kid of going to Wembley for an FA Cup final. Not the Mickey Mouse Trophy in February. I don't give a crap about that. But an FA Cup final in May. What a way to end the season.
I would, Ollie, I'd hate to lose to Millwall in the third round again. I want to move on from those days. I'd love a little cup run, Ollie. Question for you. This is a horrible question for you, Ollie. Okay. Would you take a cup final visit at Wembley for losing Premier League status? Horrible question.
No.
That's aimed at
Absolutely
Ollie,
not.
what do you think?
Absolutely not. No, definitely not. Because looking at, I mean, even if it's not just as my opinion, I think the club would definitely not do that. Their plan is for a long-term plan. They want sustainability. They want to be a Premier League side, long-term. I mean, we don't want to be a yo-yo club, do we? Obviously, as much as it'd be nice to go on a cup run, we've never taken cup run seriously. So, it may change with the new manager. But on to the question you asked, David, though. For me, I think it's a really easy question. I think anything from above what we were finished last season, as long as we have a clear identity and we've built on something as a team, as a collective. I think anything from, I think we finished 15th, so I'll take anything from 15th upwards personally, as long as we have a clear identity and we've upgraded from last season.
So can I just want to pop in one quick question, because I think Ollie hit it. The Premier League status has to be the number one thing, right? Because that's where the money is. Having said that, if we were 10th or 11th in February, March, and we could keep that up, a cup run would be nice, because I know the supporters would like a cup run. So I think you can do both. But if I had to make the choice, absolutely, staying in the Premier League has to be the number one.
Horrible of me, David. But Ollie, what David's saying is you've answered the question very, very well. But when you gave me this topic, Colin, it felt a little bit, it did think like you thought about it. And I was really interested to know what you think about, or what you're thinking about what's a successful season for AFC Bournemouth. Because you know what? Bill Foley's got a dream. He wants to take you around Europe.
It's interesting when I was thinking about this question. What would I think would be classed as a successful season for us? I didn't even think about the league position, which may sound really odd. I'm sort of so confident in what Bill's trying to do and the players we're signing and the players we signed in January and the players we're potentially going to get in this window that I think that will look after itself. I think a successful season for us for the year would be if we get further information on the infrastructure outside of bit on the pitch. So, but that specifically, I'm talking about a new stadium because I think all the fans are desperate for that. There's definitely a need for it. And I know there's Jim Froler on Twitter is always teasing us out. The conversations are ongoing, constantly looking at plans and things like that. I still remember when the old Dean Court was demolished and the new Dean Court opened in 2001. And me and my dad, like I was quite young at the time, me and my dad would drive up to the stadium every weekend, see what the progress was like and that excitement about the new stadium. So I would say if we, by the end of this season, the new training grounds all done, built, and we've got plans out there for a new stadium, going up for planning permission, potentially looking at starting the build within the next few months or within the next 6 months or whatever, I'll think it'll be a successful season. Because as I said, I think we're more than good enough to survive. I think we shouldn't even be anywhere near the bottom three, to be honest, this year.
David,
and I'm not worried about that.
Yeah.
David, there will be bumps in the road, but it's what we all wanted. We wanted Max to achieve it. Didn't quite get it done under Max, and we loved Max as an owner. But this is what we wanted: new training ground, facilities away from the stadium, a place for the team, place for all the teams to go to Monday to Friday, then a really good stadium.
Well, I'm going to actually add something. To me, the academy is actually the key, right? Because if we can upgrade the academy, they've already upgraded to Category 2, and I personally would like us to go for Category 1, because that provides us with a long-term source of players that we develop ourselves over the next 10, 20 years. And if we ever got relegated down to the Championship or the old League One, we would at least be able to bring on our own players. To me, that's absolutely the key. In terms of the stadium, yeah, I think it's going to be important. I think there's going to be huge arguments about the stadium because I just remember growing up in Bournemouth, and I don't think the council's changed that much. It's going to be a battle to get the kind of stadium that we need in the location that we want it to be, I think. But maybe Jim will succeed in that. I think they're doing some things that are really good. I know people are upset about the 1810 club being turned into hospitality, but that actually makes a lot of sense from their perspective, right? They're taking an area which was basically available for a cheap pre-match drink, and they're turning it into £250 a head seats for the stadium. We are going to have to pay more if we want to get more, and people are going to just have to understand that.
We're getting a tent. We should just live it up.
Actually, I mean, I think the tent idea is a really good idea. Build a tent, a heated tent in the winter with TVs and with bars. I think that will be a great solution.
Great conversations. Final question coming round the room then. It's been great to have you guys on with this latest fan debate. We'll do more of these in the 2023-24 season. Make sure you follow these guys. Details in the description. Follow them on X, Twitter. I don't know what it is. Ollie, right, I'm going to put you on the spot. All of you guys, I'm going to put you on the spot. Don't sit on the fence. Where do AFC Bournemouth finish at the end of game 38 in the Premier League season if we have this transfer window successful?
I haven't put too much thought into it. I mean, obviously, we've still got a month of the window. But in terms of an early prediction, I think 13th, personally. I'm not crazy ambitious like I think David is with top 10. But I'm not crazy negative.
You haven't even heard my prediction yet.
Okay, well,
Champions League. Yeah.
But I'm going to go with 13th.
13th. That's 2 up from last season, Colin. Higher or lower?
I'm going to say any sort of top half finish, 12th. I'll say 12th. I think we're more than capable of that. As I said, I don't even fear relegation at all. That might be a bit naive, but I'm confident in the players we've got. I've seen enough from the players last year, and obviously with the exciting new style we've got coming to the club this year in terms of playing style, I think we'll be fine. And so I'm going to go for 12th.
We've had a few additions, David. Where are we finishing in the Premier League season?
Higher. I am going to go and make a predict. I'm actually going to put money on this because the odds are so good. I am going to predict that we're going to do a Leicester and that we're actually going to win the league this year.
Now I know you're joking.
What's the odds? What are the odds on that?
I'm actually going to put $10 on that, and if I do it, I'll pay for my £7,500 season ticket next year in the whatever they call it, the boardroom, right?
If that actually happens, David, I'm going to remember where you said it, and I'm going to want to be part of the celebrations. That's all I'm saying. Thank you for checking out this video.
If we win the league, I think they should be giving me a seat in the boardroom for that.
If we win the league and we go to the Champions League, I'll meet you all in Madrid for a drink. Do that.
I'll tell you what, it's a fairy tale, but it's a great way to finish this video. Do subscribe to the channel. More content to come through this season. Do hit the like button. You can also support the channel at buymeacoffee.com/Cherries Red Army. Thank you to the guys that have contributed on this video, and go check them out. And Ollie, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your week and look forward to the rest of the season when it hits us.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thanks for having me on, and yeah, cheers.
I actually just bought myself a 4K TV because they're actually showing more games in 4K this year. So at least I'll be able to watch it on a big screen TV. You know, even if I should be over, I'll probably be over next Easter for the Everton home, Palace home, and I'm hoping Luton away. So
fantastic.
Nice.
There you heard
I
it.
want to go to Luton away because I want to go to a backyard to get
Iriola ball in
stand.
4K in the States for David for most of the season. Colin, you'll be blogging. Check out Colin's YouTube channel. I'll put a link in the description below. Thanks for coming on, but look, it'll get exciting, I'm sure of that.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm very excited for under 2 weeks now. Under 2 weeks. Very excited. Thank you for having me. And
David, thank you very much for coming on, and do enjoy following the Cherries. I know you do, but thanks for this contribution.
Yeah, it's fun. Let's hope we start off with 4 wins in a row, and then we can all be talking about Champions League, right?
That would be nice. And we thank you for checking out this video. Do head to those comments. Do tell us what you think on all the topics we've discussed. Do hit the like button. From me, David, Colin, and Ollie, we'll see you on the next one. Up, Cherries.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.